Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. You're joined once again today by the amazing Irene Siegel. And by the way, as a doctor, as an author, there's so much that she can help you along the way with, because as the owner of Centerpoint Counseling, and again, she's based out of Huntington, New York, but she's helping so many with their psychotherapy practice and the book. I just have to bring this up right off the top here. The Sacred Path of the Therapist. Hold on. I have to thank you for sending this book to me.
You're welcome.
Have not had a chance to read it yet, but Modern Healing, Ancient Wisdom, Client Transformation. I know that's what it's all about. So please tell us a little bit about yourself. I know, she's super smart. She has a PhD, and she's helping so many. So would you mind doing the introduction?
Sure. Well, I've been a psychotherapist for a lot of years. I'm an EMDR consultant, so I specialize with trauma. But at the same time that I was building my career as a psychotherapist, I've been studying all over the world, really, with different healers of ancient wisdom traditions. And it started with Incan tradition, and I've worked with different healers along the way. And I've really learned how to create what I call like a healing space, a healing platform for clients to really accelerate their healing process. And it's all about working in between the spaces. It's all about knowing how to activate the energy of a higher energy that helps clients heal in a more accelerated way. And that's what my book is about. So I have research in there to substantiate what I'm talking about. I have references, spiritual references in there. And it's not just for therapists. That book is really for anybody. I have meditations in there. And it's really bringing together Eastern philosophy with Western philosophy in terms of healing. And of course, I do it through the psychotherapeutic modality.
Beautiful. And how can we contact you before we continue? Would you mind sharing?
Well, my website is drirenesiegel.com. So that's drirenesiegel.com. And I have a list of my classes on there and contact information. My email is irenesiegel@me.com. So I'm happy to hear from anybody.
Yeah. And by the way, today, as we continue the conversation, please feel free, anyone, to call in with any questions. We're going to open up the phone line, 631-307-4010. That's 631-307-4010. So as we continue the show, feel free to call in and ask about anything, right? Nothing's off topic.
That would be fine. That would be fine.
All right. Yeah. Well, where did you want to start for today? Did you have an area of focus for us?
Well, I've been talking over the last few weeks. I've been talking about psychotherapy. I've been talking about EMDR. I've been talking about these themes. But what I really want to accentuate is really the importance of understanding how to work in a healing field and how to activate that field. So I do it through EMDR therapy. I follow the 8-phase protocol of eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. But at the same time, I'm holding a coherent field of energy in the session. So what does that mean? Well, I've been a meditator for a really, really long time. I joke, I tell people I came out of the womb meditating because I feel even as a child, I was into this alternate reality that my parents would shake their heads and wonder where I came from. But it was so innate. It's such a part of me. And then I followed more established traditions to learn the language and to have a context for what I was doing. But it's really about getting into the space where you could be really centered and really calm, and connecting to the earth, connecting to your own higher self, if you want to call it that, cosmic whole, and holding an energy field. Now, like I said, this isn't just for psychotherapy. People can do this for themselves, and it balances the field. It really energizes the field. People in other healing traditions, body workers, massage therapists, acupuncturists, chiropractors, anybody who works with people can activate a field that accelerates healing. So even when I do presentations for the EMDR International Association, I've been doing them pretty much once a year. They have their conference. And I always bring in this subject because this is my thing. How can we accelerate healing and awaken consciousness at the same time. So there are scientific studies about this.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an organization on the West Coast called HeartMath. They've done a lot of research on heart-brain coherence and what happens in the field, what happens between people, how the body becomes coherent, how interpersonally we become
Hmm.
coherent, and how much that is valuable. Even for yourself, I'm sure you've been to different doctors or different situations or whatever, and you'll say, gee, I really connected, or I didn't connect, or I felt something really happened here, or maybe not.
Yeah.
And is it really about how educated the doctor is, even though that's part of it? Or is it about something else?
Yeah, it's about that connect. It's so funny you said that because I had a double groin hernia surgery last week,
Mm,
and I never even met my surgeon or doctor because my doctor left the practice, but turns out he was the head of the internal gastro department. So yesterday I had to see him because I have some extreme bloating and pain, and
mm,
I got to see him for the first time really because I only talked to him a few minutes before I went under. Just so, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're here to see Dr. Spagnolis? He is so amazing." I'm like, "Is he?" Like I really didn't know. And then I got to see him yesterday for like 15 minutes, and I'm like, wow, he is so compassionate, caring, kind, and has this aura about him. And yeah, I mean, it just that makes the world of difference to me. And I think a lot of people too, that connection, that someone who's genuinely passionate,
yeah.
because there's some very highly skilled and amazing doctors, but I've been to some offices and I'm like, I will never go back here again. There's no bedside manner. There's no kindness. There's no
Yes.
empathy. There's no yeah, so it's that energy you feel from someone, right?
Yeah. And so that's one level I'm talking about. We feel that. We know if someone is connected. We know if they're in a caring space. You take it another level, and that's with someone who actually meditates
Mhm.
and brings in that expanded range of consciousness. It becomes part of what you feel in the field. So you might feel it as even a greater connection,
Yeah.
or that, if you've had massage therapy or acupuncture and you're lying on a bodywork table and you just go into this other space, and there's a healing process in between the spaces that is
Yeah.
invaluable. Even Deepak Chopra talks about in one of his books how healing happens in the silent spaces. And I do believe that that's true. And he says in his book, Western medicine could never wrap their heads around this, but we could heal disease in those silent spaces. And I see that with my clients, even therapists that I train, that I provide
Yeah.
consultation to, I try to get through to them that less is more, that you don't have to fill the session with a lot of talking.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have to fill it with a
With
lot of
up.
healing.
Stand by. We have a caller coming in.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to the show. You are live on the line. Who's this?
Hi, I'm Anna.
Hi, Anna. We are live. I just want to let you know here, live on the air with Dr. Irene Siegel. And is there something you'd like to ask her today?
Yes, so I'm a student studying biology, and I'm also in my second year of school. And I love how you mix holistic medicine in as well as with your work. And I was wondering, what resources would you recommend researching?
So what would say that again? What would I would research? Say that one more time.
What resources would you recommend researching?
In order to understand what I'm talking about with the healing spaces, that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. Well, actually, you could go to HeartMath's site. There's a HeartMath Institute. They have their studies there. Um, I have published a few papers along with my book, and those have been in the Journal of Transpersonal Psychology. You can read some of Daniel Siegel's work. He's done work on interpersonal neurobiology. He's a scientist, a psychiatrist, and he's talked about that interpersonal connection from a scientific biological perspective. If that's your focus, you might really like that. There are other scientists that have actually also researched the energy field
Mm-hmm.
and have done some tremendous work in terms of pulling together the energy field with coherent experience. So, um, but those are a couple of good leads.
Well, thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Anna. And just tell us your website again in case she wants to reach out personally or anyone else that's listening to this today.
It's drirenesiegel.com, DRIRENESIEGEL.com. And I want to mention that if people are really interested in this topic, there are meditation classes they can take. You can either find something in your own area if you're drawn to a particular tradition, like
Okay.
Buddhism or Native
Yeah.
American Indian tradition, or I teach a program called Awakening Your Light Body, which is actually coming up in just a few weeks. It's a pretty heavy duty program. It's a 6-month program.
Okay.
We meet once a month online on a Sunday afternoon, and it's about awakening energy centers close to a soul level. And it's
Beautiful.
really quite profound, as well as I teach some other meditation
Okay.
classes. Jill, I've actually got a couple of retreats coming up in April in Hawaii,
Ooh,
where
Anna,
I'm
you still
going.
with us? Are you listening?
Yes, I'm listening.
All right, good. Well, we'll let you get off the hook as we continue the conversation. Obviously, you're still going to listen on the podcast, so I will let you go in case anyone else does want to call. Thank you again. 631-307-4010. Thanks again. Bye bye. All right, tell us about these retreats. What?
Well, the first one is for therapists, basically. It's EMDR as a transpersonal therapy across cultural perspective where East meets West. And that's going to be in Hawaii for 5 days. And then the week and this is the middle of April, the week following that, I'm putting together a retreat for anybody who wants to come and work spiritually and go deeper within themselves. I work with a Hawaiian high priestess on the big island of Hawaii. She comes in, she takes us to sacred sites. We do ceremony with her. She's pretty amazing. So she gives us the perspective, the cultural perspective of the Hawaiian natives. And it's just a beautiful experience. So check out my website. You're welcome to join me in Hawaii.
Oh my goodness, that is impressive. Have you done this before?
Yes, I have, prior to COVID. So prior to COVID, I've been out in Hawaii actually twice teaching that first program, EMDR as a transpersonal therapist. I got a great response. Someone just wrote me recently when I sent out the ad for the new one. She says, this was the best program I ever took in my life. I said, well, thank you so much, because it's not just about education. It's about personal transformation. So everybody leaves there personally transformed. And during COVID, I translated it into an online program out of necessity, and it was fine. But I think there's nothing like being on the land in the sacred sites, working the process there. So I'm really excited about going back.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. I've never been to Hawaii. My goodness. And then when you hear Hawaii, then you get all the islands. And what is your favorite, by the way? And
Well, where I do the programs are on the big island of Hawaii.
Yes.
I co-sponsor them with the Greenwell Conservancy. They're a not-for-profit organization on Hawaii, and they sponsor a lot of EMDR training. They're a great bunch of people. They are really concerned with the healing of the population on the Big Island. And really, it's on the Big Island where you find the healers and you find the sacred sites where healing practices have been done. So that's where I have been doing my retreats, and it's been an amazing experience.
Wow, amazing. All right. Good.
Well, maybe you'll come, Jill. Maybe you'll come and experience it.
Love to. Problem is I got these two little things. They're like a disease, but they're so amazing. They're like appendages. They're my kids.
Yeah.
I never get to go away without them. But you never know, right?
You never
Gotta
know.
manifest some positivity here about this retreat. All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Irene Siegel. Let's just also remind everyone the lines are open 631-307-4010. If you have any questions, and what else did you want to share for today?
Well, just along the same line, when I talk about the healing field and activating this field, this is really related to ancient wisdom. So it's in the ancient traditions, and you find this is really what acupuncture is based on. Homeopathy is based on this. Different traditions understand that we need to activate the healing field within ourselves to truly heal. So not to...
You have a call coming in?
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt, but it's a good thing. Hi, welcome to the show. You're live on the line. Who's this?
My name is Donna. How are you today?
Good. Hi, Donna. Just to let you know, you are live. Dr. Irene Siegel is here to answer any questions you may have. Go ahead.
Hi, Irene.
Hi.
I'm listening to your show, and I have a question. I have a practice in Jupiter, Florida, yoga practice,
Uh-huh.
and I'd like to become an author. And I have a lot of ideas, but I don't know how to get started. What tips do you have, and how did you start?
Well, I felt this burning need to put what I know into publications and get it out there. So
That's what I feel like, but I don't know how to start.
I started by writing an article and getting the article
Okay.
published. And I have to tell you, I was a therapist for a long time as an LCSW, and
Hmm.
I was debating back and forth, should I go for a PhD? I didn't know, but the reason I actually
Hmm.
did is because I wanted to do academic writing. So I went for a PhD. I learned about research. I learned about academic writing, and I started publishing in an academic journal. And that was the
Okay.
first start. And when I wrote my book, though, that's not really academic writing. That's kind of just more for the general public and therapists. And I just
Right.
started writing. I said, it was almost like this flowed through me. We're talking about activating that flowing, healing field, okay, and coming
Hmm.
into resonance. It's through that I did an outline for myself. Then I started filling it in. And then I actually worked with someone who helped me write a proposal to get it published. And then
Okay.
I sent it to W. Norton and Company. I just sent it, and it got to the editor there, and she
Okay.
called.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Who is that? I want to write that down.
W. Norton and Company.
WW.
Norton and Company.
Okay, got
But you
it.
know what
Thank
I would
you.
suggest? Check their website because they will tell you how to submit. I think they've changed their process.
Okay.
Okay, so check
I
their
will
website.
definitely do that. I will
But you
definitely
have
do
to
that.
find
Thank you.
you have to find the right venue for your book. So that might not be
Right.
right for you. Find other books along the same line and see who that publisher is and contact that publisher.
There you go. See, I don't even know where to start, so I appreciate your help so much. Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay. Thank you. So nice talking to you.
Same here.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. Thanks again
Bye-bye.
for the call. Also, 631 307 4010, 631 307 4010. I don't know why my camera's glitching. Every time I move to the right to let the caller go. Awesome. A great conversation. And I forgot where we left off before she kindly interrupted us with that awesome question.
That was a great question.
Where were we?
We're talking about activating the healing field, through different programs. So, I do believe that people should work with a teacher. It's very hard to learn to meditate on your own. And if you want to bring it into your clinical practice or you want to just bring it into your life, I think it's really important to find the right teacher for oneself. Like what I was saying to Donna on the call, find the right publisher for you. It might not be the same publisher I used, So same thing about learning meditation and learning healing. Find the right teacher for you. See where you're drawn. What are you called to? And then bring it into every part of your life. So as a therapist, I can just say that in doing that, I see really accelerated healing. So you don't have to be an EMDR therapist to do this, even though that's how I direct it because that's my training. You can be any kind of healing practitioner, or you might want to say, like, Jill, you've got 2 kids at home. I want to bring this into my family environment. I want to change the energy in my family. How do I do that? Well, it starts with you.
Yeah.
It starts by changing it within you. And you start to do that and people feel it. So I remember one time I was coming home from South America. I was in the Amazon jungle, working with healers in the Amazon jungle. And I felt so expanded. I felt so alive. I felt like every cell in me was activated. And I remember walking through the Smith Haven Mall, which was such a culture shock.
Love the Smith Haven Mall. I was just there yesterday for my doctor appointment because there's a whole Stony Brook medicine thing there now.
Right?
But go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm walking through the Smith Haven Mall after coming out of the Amazon jungle, and it was such culture shock for me. But everywhere I went, people's heads turned and they started smiling at me.
Oh.
And I realized I was just smiling. I was just beaming.
Beaming, yeah.
You know, and so they felt that energy. And that's what I'm talking about. And whether you're in therapy or not in therapy, you start with shifting something in yourself by learning to turn within. Not only do you notice a change, but people around you. So it's really very prevalent that people in therapy with me or other therapists that I have worked with, that they will say that their clients report that people in their world notice something different. They can't pinpoint it, but they are more loving towards them. And the client is more loving towards people in their world. Their heart is more open. Their smile is on their face. Their energy is different. And most people don't even know what they're sensing. They just know it's something. Right?
Beautiful. I love that story. And I love the Smith Haven Mall. That's where I grew up.
Yes.
That is so funny. And now I was there. I had no idea they built the old Sears. Remember the old Sears that sat there empty for years?
Yes.
It's a whole big Stony Brook medicine now. Do you know that?
I didn't
Everything
know
from
that.
pediatrics to internists to gastro. It's became Stony Brook medicine. It's so cool.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I used to work in that mall. My one of my first jobs at Contempo Casuals in the mall near the food court. Good memories. All right. What else was on tap for today? We still got 5 minutes left in your show.
Okay. So, when I worked with Native American Indian traditions, one of the things that I learned is to turn within and work with inner healers, with inner guides.
Mm-hmm.
I take clients what I call cosmic interweaves in therapy, and often, when appropriate, depends on the client, I will invite them to use their imagination, bring in their own inner teachers, their own inner guides. Sometimes animals show up for them. And in the native traditions, they call this power animals or animal allies. And it happens spontaneously in the shared field. And so I will just say to the client, well, what does that feel like for you? And say, well, it feels really good. And they look at me to make sure that I don't think they're just a little bit crazy, but I encourage it. And they start to get inner messages from these inner guides. Now, some say, there are some theorists that say, well, they're hearing the whisper of their soul.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's coming through as a phrase or as a sentence or through the voice of an inner guide. You know, it's their own soul talking to them, and it guides them on their healing practice. But what I find really interesting, because I am always in this healing space when I'm with a client, is that my internal process often is paralleling the internal process of the client. So they're coming up with images, they're coming up with phrases, and I am also sharing in that experience. Now, I don't share that with my client, I just note it, and it makes me smile because we are in the shared field and we're holding that together. And that is reinforcement about what we are doing. So I really consider this 21st century therapy, 21st century healing, where the therapist is the vibrational tool for healing with the client. It's a shared experience.
Well, we love that. You know, you're here to help so many. And just want to point out, I know you're based out of Long Island, the center itself. Are you able to work with people out of state? Could you just share how that works virtually or?
Okay, well, I do a lot of virtual work. In order to work with someone out of state, I need to be licensed in the state where the client is. So I am actually licensed in a few states. I'm licensed in Florida. In addition to New York, I'm licensed in Florida. I'm licensed in Arizona. And virtual is so much more accepted these days. But that pretty much is the rule for licensed therapists of any whether you're a social worker or a psychologist, or I think also a mental health licensed therapist. So that's the only caveat to it. You just can't do remote with anybody anywhere in the country. Even if my client goes out of state, If they're not in a state where I'm licensed, I'm not supposed to be seeing that client, even virtually. So there are restrictions in New York State, and other states have similar restrictions. I'm really hoping down the road there'll be more flexibility, and I believe New York State is working on this, so we'll have to see. But that's what the rules are now.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I find the virtual experience it can be very intense and very powerful. But people can be anywhere to take my meditation classes, and we do that virtually. So I have people from other countries that come in on Monday nights. I have a weekly class, Monday nights. I have someone from Israel. In Israel, my Monday night class for her is like the middle of the night, and she shows up consistently from Israel. Very sweet,
Beautiful.
very motivated.
Now we are out of time. Dr. Irene, remind us how we can reach you, please.
My website is drirenesiegel.com. That's DRIRENESIEGEL.com. My email address is irenesiegel@me.com. I want to mention also I have a podcast called Transpersonal Journeys with Irene Siegel. And you can find that wherever you get your podcasts. And I have a bunch of classes coming up, so please check my website. I'd love to have you in my classes.
And don't forget the book.
The Sacred Path of the Therapist, Modern Healing, Ancient Wisdom, and Client
Perfect.
Transformation.
You said it best. Thank you so much. All right. Have a fantastic day. And to all of our listeners, stay tuned. More of the show is on the way.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.